Hello, model railroad fanatics. Welcome back to the layout, the Union Pacific Railroad Evanston subdivision in HO Scale. My name is Daryl Cruz, owner and builder of the layout, and your host for episode 38 of season 2024. Yes, we finally got some scenery going on a new location. I have expanded to Granger, Wyoming, which is the upper level right above Wholesome Cement and Devil's Slide. So I'm moving on to a brand new selection here, a brand new section, I should say, adding some scenery and putting down some ballast. Want to share with you how that all took place and how things are moving along. Now, this is what I've been working on for weeks and weeks and weeks. Finally got it to the point where I'm ready to move on to the next section. That's the Taggart Tunnels and Devil's Slide geological formation. And then finally, this week, I moved on to this area here. And I always do the upper level first, so that would mean doing Granger. So this is what it looked like when the week began. Plywood, flat plywood, which fits well for Granger. I did have some backdrops up, but Granger is really a pretty flat area. This photo backdrops you see there are from pictures from Granger, so that's how flat it is at Granger. There are, of course, mountains in the background and everything. So the flatness of this upper level here fits pretty well. So my goal was to get all the way to here done so that I could eventually then, in the weeks to come, move on to Devil's Slide there, the Wholesome Cement, and then finally the remaining part. The goal is to get all the wood covered up and have a little bit more finished look for everything. And then I'll come back around a second time and do a lot of detailing on the scenery, building buildings, and all that kind of stuff. Instead of doing this long stretch all in one go, I decided to split it in half and do one half and then the other half. So the first step is to put down some masking tape. I also covered up the signal bridge there. Now I actually made a mistake here because I usually paint the track first. Completely forgot. Here you can see these are some buildings at Granger. So there are mountains in the background and so forth. But anyway, I forgot to paint the track, so I had to actually paint the track after the scenery. Now once the masking tape was down on the track, then I went ahead and did my normal ground cover procedure. Started with some yellow grass, burnt green, and or burnt grass and weeds colors of Woodland Scenics fine turf. And did that first, and then followed it up with some coarse turf, and then finally some clump foliage. I take that back, not clump foliage. This is underbrush, so it goes from fine to fine to coarse turf to underbrush, and then finally clump foliage. I don't have any clump foliage on here now, just the underbrush. Once it was dry, of course, I took up the masking tape, and then I painted the track. Now you can see a couple areas off by the track here where the scenery looks a little bit darker. That's where I had some overspray. That's why I do the painting the track first normally. You can see on the second half I did paint the track there. That's what I should have done first. So there was a little bit of overspray on the scenery, and then of course I ballasted the track as well. definitely makes a big difference. Just getting rid of the wood color and putting it in the scenery and ballast. Here I've started tackling the second half. He kind of got it started a little bit. Have the track masked so you don't get any scenery on the track itself. Here's all the different shakers of Woodland Scenics. My base paint that I put on first. And of course had the signals covered up. And then here also. So here I kind of got started. I painted it, put down the fine turf, yellow grass, burnt grass and weeds color, and then some coarse turf, and then finally some underbrush. And if you look at the photo backdrop, you can see it, blends in real well. I mean, that's basically what it looks like here. There are a few trees in this area, but not many. Now, after doing this, it blends in well for parts of the backdrop, but then there are some parts of the backdrop where you can have kind of like the gravel road going out. So here it is all finished with the scenery. But as I was saying, I was kind of very happy with the way the scenery blends into the backdrop, except where there is some gravel right there. You have the gravel coming up on the backdrop. So I wanted to kind of blend that in a little bit better on some of these areas. So the next thing I decided to do was to go ahead and put some ballast along the backdrop. So I started out with some buff color. This is buff mixed with a little bit of gray and some brown. And so when I was looking at it, I was just kind of trying to compare it. I had this mix from a different location, and at first I thought that would be good, but then looking at what's in the picture, I thought it needed a little more gray area on it, in that a little bit too much of the buff. Although that area there was definitely a good match, but this area here had a little bit more of the gray color. So I decided to go ahead and mix some more gray in there. So here you can see I added some gray to it and mixed it up, and definitely is a little bit better match. And then I went ahead and put that on along the back by the backdrop, and it definitely does do a lot better job of blending from the layout into the backdrop. Now I'll probably put some more ballast around different places. It just depends on how I put different buildings and structures in. I have a big decision to make here. Granger is a town. There actually are some houses and buildings and so forth. Here's some more gravel I added. So if you're at Granger, this on the layout, this is looking north, and if you're at Granger looking north, the backdrop there, you notice I added some more backdrop. The backdrop there represents looking north from Granger. This is continuing on then towards West Vaco. These are the mountains right outside of West Vaco. Mountains between West Vaco and Granger. So when you're at trackside in Granger and looking north, you see all that, what's in the backdrop right here. Now, you notice I put a Quonset hut in there also, the PTC antenna, hid the seams of the backdrop with some trees. And I got a white school bus, because that's what they have there in Granger. Granger looks like it's kind of they have some equipment there for. This is a crossing I'm going to be putting in. This crossing is by Details Plus. So thought I would give that a try. I'm going to do a review on these once I work on getting them installed with a servo from Logic Rail Tech. This again is by Details Plus. Might want to check them out. They make crossing lights and crossing gates. Here you can see again where it kind of blends into the back. So I'm hoping to do that. I might get it installed next week or the following week. So that should be coming up here. Getting that installed with a Logic Rail Tech servos and their control board. And then the Details Plus crossing gates. I have one more crossing gate I'm going to put in at Echo, so there'll be 3 of them all together. I have one over at Evanston, this one here in Granger, and then in at Echo. You notice I did paint the fascia also. So Granger, this is some pictures of Granger. They have the school there. They do have some houses. It's pretty run down. There's all the roads are gravel. Here's a picture of the Quonset hut. And then you do have some UP vehicles, a school bus there for transporting crews. I'm not sure exactly why they would need a school bus for it, but then there is a church there. I'm not sure if it's being used. There's a bar. Antelope Crossing Pub. So it would be really interesting to put all these buildings in. The only thing is that when you're looking north in Granger, the buildings are to the south of the track. So these buildings technically are all off the layout. Now I might just turn things around. This is a cool one. They put the air conditioner on the chimney. That's pretty unique. I've never seen that before. I think that's what that is. Here's the post office in Granger. I don't think they have any paved roads. If they do, they've turned to gravel over the years. So anyway, I could flip it around and put the buildings on the north side, but this is what it looks looking north. So I think right now this is kind of what I'm going to do at Granger, is just have it looking north. I might include some of the things from the south. On the south side, they do have some UP equipment. This are the buildings that are north of the tracks. But this is pretty much what it looks like. Pretty desolate. There are some telephone lines north of the tracks, so I think I will include that for it. Now, I did pick up this Quonset hut. But I thought this would be perfect to represent the Quonset hut at Granger. But if you look at the people standing by, this is only $19 at Lombard Hobbies. But if you look at it, I did look at it close enough. I mean, the actual Quonset hut is huge, or definitely huge compared to the Walthers one. So this is a tiny one. This probably would have to be at least twice this big. And there aren't any windows on them either. But I had it, so I put it together. And I'll probably put like the school bus and the maintenance away equipment and so on. I think I will go ahead and put that on the north side. And just leave the actual buildings of Granger, the houses and so forth. I'll probably leave them off the layout. So that's about as far as I got this week. And coming up in the weeks to come, this is at eye level for me, by the way. Looks pretty cool. Next week I'm going to be hopefully installing the crossing, the servos and the control, so that the crossing gates light up and go down as the train goes by. I'm hoping to get to that this coming week, but I also want to put in a turnout down in Devil's Slide so that the switcher at the Wholesome Cement can have a little bit of a lead track. So I may be doing some work on wholesome cement, but the only thing I'm going to be doing up here anymore is getting the crossing gates installed. So we'll see how much I get done next week, but then eventually I'm going to be going full bore on the double slide control point and wholesome cement, so the lower level at this location. On the upper level, I'm just going to be getting the crossing gates going as we see a double stack train going through. Now you notice I have some clouds I put up there. When I was putting this backdrop up, I unfortunately damaged the backdrop at that location there in the sky. So I cut out some clouds from another backdrop that I was not using, and I just kind of taped it up there to cover up the damage. Not the best solution. By the way, you notice the signals don't work here because the ballast, when it takes a couple days for it to dry before it stops detecting on the control panel. The wet glue and the wet ballast will actually conduct a little bit of electricity, and the ballasted track will show up as being occupied until it's had a couple days to dry, and then it takes a train to be on it to actually get detected. So it takes a couple days until the signals start working again. But overall, it looks pretty good. Definitely, it's amazing how much just a little bit of work here. Just getting the wood covered up, getting some ballast on the track. This is a pretty cool angle. This is pretty much eye level, maybe a little bit above. I tried to do it at my actual eye level. It looks really cool when I stand there, but if I actually get the camera that low, it has trouble focusing on the train coming. But it definitely looks pretty cool as it's coming down the line there. Hey, thanks so much for watching, everybody. This is how far I've gotten at this point. Well, hopefully power on again this next week. I have an operating session on Saturday, so I have to do some work on that too. So we'll see how much I get done. But moving on. Have a great week, everybody. Have fun running trains and take care.